And I'm Upamanyu. Yes, for some reason you're not. I will um, just wait for a second because you're not being recorded as well. Uh, yeah, we can restart things. Uh, Good to go.
Yeah, I think refreshing helped. Yeah, sometimes it's as easy as refreshing. Okay. So we're going to obviously be talking about our headline topic. Jimothy the raccoon has been super viral. If you're into animals even a little bit, you would have seen like a lot of reels about Jimothy. We're going to talk about him and why he's viral and what that means. And apart from that, we're also going to be talking about how more than half of the world's migratory species are declining. These are specifically for birds, and what that means for the environment and for humans in general. And we're also going to be talking about how markets can succeed and also serve global south communities. So we're going to learn about what markets are and how they're serving the communities. And in addition to that, we have this news that after Hurricane Helene, the country's tiniest turtle is even closer to extinction, which is a really bummer news. But we're used to all the bummer news, aren't we? What else do we have on the roster groups?
There is a story about tigers and how India has changed their image of declining tiger population to an increasing tiger population. But then now there are challenges for the tigers that we must solve if we want to see that trend upwards. Then there is, on the flip side of things, there is a mysterious death that has been reported of 12 or 15 Kenyan elephants in Amboseli. There is a story about climate anxiety, and we haven't explored that topic here yet. And we think that that is something worth exploring as well. On top, because we also serve news that can contribute to someone's climate anxiety somewhere. And then we also have the a story about bat guano. We'll see what all that is about. And as always, if we have the time, we'll cover some shorter and new species stories, etc.
Okay, so the headline topic and Jimothy. Now, Jimothy the raccoon has a short spine syndrome, which is why he looks more like a furball than a raccoon. But this condition is not something that just affects raccoons, it can also affect dogs. Jimothy, a viral Seattle raccoon, has short spine syndrome, a rare congenital deformity where the spine fails to develop properly in utero. This condition can affect dogs, calves, and other mammals, but is vanishingly rare. So rare that veterinarians with decades of experience have rarely seen clinical cases. Short spine syndrome results in animals having normal limb length but significantly shorter spines, creating a distinctive appearance of no neck and a round spherical body shape. Another notable example is Tilly, an Instagram famous dog. The severity of the deformity makes surgical correction extremely challenging. Many animals with this condition likely don't survive in utero or early life, making cases like Jimothy and Tilly remarkable survivors. The condition is not new historically. But does this tell us something about our human nature? We're going to talk about that, but I think, before I talk about human nature and we talk about other things, we should probably share a video and show it to the audience once. Um, so this is the video, and this is from New York Times. Um, I'm just going to play this video of Jimothy.
I think he's just sort of round and a silly little guy, and people just sort of need something silly and fun in their life right now.
Okay, so that was Jimothy. And yeah, so I think it's very, very the point is there in the video where she says that people like him because he's funny and silly. And I think it's also the fact that it's rare. Like there are a lot of raccoons, but just because Jimothy is round and looks different, we like Jimothy. And we want to be
Hmm.
like Jimothy, and Jimothy is making the news. But if he was a regular raccoon, nobody cares. Nobody
Oh, I
cares at
mean,
all.
on the contrary, he would be like, villainized or something. I don't know. Maybe people are getting tattoos. Okay, that is, yeah, one extreme. But yeah, like raccoons are generally villainized for raiding, what do you call them, wins and things like
Yeah,
that, right?
I mean, they are called trash pandas,
Yes.
especially because of the panda type structure around their eyes, because
Uh-huh.
they have like the eyes and then they have that bigger, darker patch. So,
The eye
very much
patch.
like pandas. Yeah, very much like pandas. So, they call them trash pandas instead because they go into the trash all the time.
Hmm.
And raccoons are seen as a pest more than a friend or more than a neighborhood animal. They're actually seen more as a nuisance usually by Americans. Now it's not something that you encounter in all the countries, but in the US in particular you have raccoons everywhere.
US
But
and Canada,
it's
like North America.
yeah, but it's just sad that not all raccoons get that same love. And it's the same thing like the pygmy hippo. What was the pygmy
Hmm.
hippo that got really famous?
Mooding.
Mudang, yes, Mudang. And then there was, I think, one or two other hippos that got really famous because they were round and cute, similar to Jimothi's case. But that didn't translate to all the hippos being protected or all the hippos being loved the same way. It's the same thing with Jimothi. So it's like a one off viral sensation, and people might forget Jimothi over the years. And Jimothi might not mean anything. For now, Jimothi is a sensation just like Mudang was, uh, but for all the wrong reasons, not because they're important for the environment or for any other reason, but because they look cute.
And I think what the lady said in the video, while that is important, there is a lot of, I guess, uh, negativity in our lives, and we could use some positivity in the form of Jimothy maybe. But then, that unfortunately that does not extend to other animals. We still will kill treat them as pests or maybe do a culling initiative. I don't know what happens exactly with raccoons there. There is opossums also in the North American uh, continent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I just
mm,
need you to give me 1 minute because it's hot and I forgot to switch on the. Just give me a 30 seconds, 10 seconds
right.
maybe.
So yeah, that does not unfortunately that love does not unfortunately extend to other animals. And when it comes to loving that particular species as well, again, Mudeng, as Meghna was saying, Mudeng is famous. Mudeng is very famous, but does that mean that Mudeng's popularity and all the people that are coming to see Mudeng, does that mean it is being extended to all the pygmy hippos? Unfortunately, that is not the case. Um, I don't know if the publications. We don't, again, full disclosure, we don't earn anything from this show yet. But the publications that are publishing about Jimothy, they are certainly riding on the viral wave, and we will try to do. There is nothing wrong in that, but the thing is, and does that translate to better protections for the species or better, strategies for this species? That's not the case. So we can't see this as a raccoon, Jimothy the raccoon, more as Jimothy the viral sensation, or like a individual figure, not representative of the raccoon population. I guess I don't know. I see it that way.
No, no, that is absolutely true, and it's really weird that as a race we want, like, like we tell each other that we shouldn't be racist, like as humans, we shouldn't be racist, we should be inclusive, everyone is equal, let it be men, women, whatever. And when it comes to animals, it's almost like we forget that same thing and we only like want to like select one or something that we find exceptionally cute, and then we focus all our energies on that one cute animal instead of again including all of those animals. So that selective love is something that we're okay with animals, like, and in animals, but not with humans. Like it's the same feeling or the same nature. So you cannot change that nature from one being to another being, or if you're able to, that's great, but doesn't really solve the purpose. And I think it should be extended to animals as well. Like if you like one raccoon, then maybe today, because Jimothy is so famous, they should do something for raccoons if it's possible. I don't know, because obviously
Mm,
they're seen as a menace, they're seen as a um, just as a pest. So that it's not like they're loved, but they're only loved if they're different.
mm, mm. And suffering from a serious life-threatening potentially life-threatening condition. So
Yeah, yeah, that's what it takes for you to be loved if you're an animal.
yeah. Sad, but yeah, I guess in a way, like people have found their joy in Jimothy. That's fine too. Yeah.
Mm.
Mm.
Okay, what do we have next?
We will talk about the tiger situation in India next. So this is a report from the Mongabe, which says India's tiger numbers are rising. Protecting their pathways is next. It reads, India has made progress conserving Bengal tigers, but must accommodate growing populations dispersing from protected habitats into human dominated areas amid rising poaching and ongoing forest destruction. Protected forest corridors are essential for genetic exchange between isolated tiger population, preventing inbreeding. This is, again, we have spoken multiple times about this, why inbreeding is dangerous for genetic diversity and for the entire species sometimes. India has built more mitigation structures than any other Asian country, including the world's 10 largest wildlife underpasses and overpasses. The Teen Pani underpass beneath Highway 72 in Rajaji Tiger Reserve exemplifies this conservation strategy safely allowing wildlife from mice to elephants to pass through. T8, a Bengal tiger relocated from Corbett Tiger Reserve in May 2005, uses these passages to roam extensively across the landscape. The modern expressway demonstrates India's commitment to balancing infrastructure development with wildlife conservation needs. So, uh, again, we spoke about this. You can go watch our last episode to see why these kinds of underpasses and you know overpasses is very important, and how governments are prioritizing these things. But what I wanted to also make a comment on is that we haven't been able to solve the poaching problem yet. I know Africa has managed to solve the ivory poaching problem largely. There is a very tiny market for ivory as well. And I think it was a two pronged approach of the world agreeing that like Africa took their necessary measures to curb hunting and poaching, but also the world said that no to ivory, even for imports, and that is the way it was done. But now the market is not regulated. We are trying to stop poaching, but as long as the market is there, there will be people, you know, going after these big cats.
Yeah, but the poaching for a lot of animals now in Africa, India, and other places are happening primarily because they believe that a lot of the teeth and the nails and other kind of things are useful in Chinese medicine. A lot of this is being propagated by China. Even shark
Hmm.
finning soup is something that is propagated more from China. So if
Hmm.
that country can change its demand, and that country can change its outlook towards nature and wildlife, then I think this problem can be solved. So the root cause lies within one country, more or less, like the majority of it. So if Chinese people and China in general can be more empathetic towards animals, I think everything would be better.
Yeah, I think that is one definitely a big way. Traditional medicine, they are used in traditional medicines, but also I don't think it's only China that would be importing it, because there are traditional medicine shops all over the world. So if the countries except China that are importing these teeth and nails and skin and whatnot, they say no, that we are not importing these things, then I think that also can make a difference. So just wanted to mention that as well. The article has some surprisingly great images, and I wanted to share them as well. So, as the article said, as the summary said, mice to elephants, everyone is using them. So these underpasses mean that everyone is safely using that passage, and I think that is this is the strategy India is sort of excelling at. I think there is some commitment there, but also I think this is the strategy that we'll have to follow as long as our population keeps growing, right? We'll have to make these spaces um, you know habitable for both humans and animals. And I think animals, if given that space, that separate route, they will prefer to take that route. They will generally not come in human habitats, if unless motivated by food or something like that. So I think here you can see, like, all this map has all the tiger reserve boundaries in the green, the state boundaries, the waters in blue, and the forests in the light yellow ochre. So there is a lot of forest cover. There is a lot of forest cover. There are a lot of tiger reserves, but again, as the tiger population is growing and exploding, rather, um, it's crucial that these these.
I still think there could be better forest cover. Like I understand, okay, Rajasthan not possible, but other
Mm,
places definitely can have more forest cover. Like there's a lot of white in between the green. Like the greenest part is actually Northeast India,
mm,
and that is only because primarily there's no attention given to those countries and there's no
mm,
development, which is why it's still green. Every other place, especially if you see from the MP to the Western Ghats, there isn't a
mm.
lot of forest cover, so there isn't a lot of space for them to walk through, right? If they have to reach the Western Ghats, there's just sparse forest corridors like in Andhra and then Tamil Nadu, and then that is the only way they can take. There is no other
Mm,
cross connectivity via Maharashtra and other places which you can see in the map.
mm.
So that is sad. Like, like there will be fragmented population because in areas in the middle, there's just like concentration of forests. So you don't want concentration, you want it to be spread across.
I think the Western Ghats is a connected patch of forest. They have a connected patch of forest. The Western Ghats.
Yeah.
Um,
And the MP side, is
yeah,
connected.
and then the middle, yeah,
Yeah, but
Odisha MP.
you need to connect both of them because tigers and a lot of other animals are also like, they walk a lot of distances, so they need those
Mm,
space to for movements, and that also means there's better genetic diversity due to that, what we spoke about in our last episode. So that movement
mm.
is something that is very essential because tigers are territorial as well, and a lot of tigers then go in search of new territories, and if the fragmented but big populations, like big patches, can be somehow linked to each other, that would be a better way. Like we
And I
can't
think
be.
the links here, if we link this eastern patch of Maharashtra with the middle of India, it would only need to be a very deliberate pathway, and the animals will follow that. These animals are also like creatures of habit, and I think if we have that secluded, like semi secluded, like the underpasses, paths built for them, I think the animals will take that path, which is being proven. Like, look at this, like, the wall is
Yeah,
in
this
the
is the teen pani one.
Teen Pani, yeah. uh, Heavily the traffic above is heavy, but they have a calm and quiet, and I think it's a yeah, it's a very quaint existence. The animals have their own space, we have our own space, and the yeah, the interactions are few and far between. Then that is how it should be. So yeah, this is the Rajaji Tribal Reserve director who is pointing out the locations of the underpasses in the tourist map. And yeah, so here there's also a sign in on the particular overpass that there's an elephant crossing down below. It's a nice touch for people to know that elephants may be crossing below, or tigers may be crossing, and we can see the tigers using the underpass beneath National Highway 44, which is India's longest highway. So yeah, look at that. How beautiful is that in broad daylight? And yeah, so India is a fast developing nation, but one of the fastest developing nations. And along with that, we also have the opportunity to be a pioneer in these types of projects, where we are prioritizing, balancing, or not prioritizing, but balancing the human development with the animal needs, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the thing also is that even though India is a fast developing nation, it is also one of the world's most diverse and dense wildlife places. So it
Mm,
has wildlife that can range from all the way to Pallas cat and snow leopards,
mm,
to the elephants in the south and thars and the
mm.
tigers and the leopards, and you don't find that kind of diversity in one country usually, and not the size of
Cheetahs now
India.
too.
uh, well, that is debatable. It's not like the cheetahs existed, we got them inside. We can't really put them in India's diversity map yet, but yeah, I mean, the great part is that it's one country. It's not one of the biggest countries by land size, and it's
Mm.
still got like amazing wildlife diversity, and
Yeah,
that is
we've
something.
got so many different ecosystems, as you were saying, like arid
Yeah,
ecosystem, desert ecosystems, uh, thick, lush forest, evergreen forest, then deciduous forests, and bird species. There are over like 900 species of birds in India, one of the highest after the South American continents. So,
yeah, I think India has like 11 out of 13 climates that exist. So I think they
mm,
have like, yeah, most of the climates. And that is also probably why, like, you have different climates and that cater to different animals. And we have to be really proud of the fact that we are such a wildlife dense country.
mm,
And, it's great to see that this tiger underpasses are there. But at the same time, because the tiger project is very very successful, and it's one of those conservation stories that is talked about across the world, that India is a pioneer in tiger conservation. But at this time now, they're saying that there are too many tigers now for them to handle, and these tigers are approaching human territories because there is only so much space inside the forests, and they need to step out. And this is causing
and
this
also
human.
human territories present the tigers with easy meals in the form of cattle and things like that.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I mean, like how you said, they would rather not come in front of humans because they
Mm,
do not want that conflict. But they're
yeah.
forced to be in that conflict now, similar to lions in Gir. There's like very limited space for them there. But it's the same, and it's going to be a story similar for that for tigers. And the reason why we started conserving tigers is that the population was low, and now, if that's going to lead back to low populations again, then I think all of that effort was for nothing. So there has to be newer, I don't know, innovations and newer solutions for this issue, because the tigers also need space. It's not just us.
Mm, correct. That is absolutely true. And we have the discussion question. I think we have already answered the discussion question. If tiger success means more human wildlife conflict, is conservation actually winning? And the answer to that is we have to make sure that we reduce the friction as much as possible. Because famously, humans are not very good living with wildlife. We have left that past way, way behind. And yeah, at least urban creatures like us, we are not very good with wildlife, living with wildlife. It's very, very dangerous. And we can be dangerous not only to us, but also to the wildlife. So it's better that we, keep those things separated in a way which does not impede the progress, maybe a little bit but not too much, impede the progress too much, but at the same time it also does not impact the animals. Mm.
Yeah, and I think we'll keep you updated on whatever happens on this front and whatever newer solutions are coming up, because I'm really proud of India for bringing back its tigers. At least it's not just one tiger they love all the tigers. But at the same time, things are getting heated, so it is possible that they don't like all the tigers. So let's see how this pans out. We
Mhm.
really need the tigers, and the tigers need us. So yeah, the tigers
Mm.
actually don't need us, but they just need us so that we can create more forest areas for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Uh, so heading on to the next topic,
Yeah.
uh, we have this topic about birds, and
Mm.
Upta just spoken about birds, but so there are like a lot of migratory bird species across the world, and more than half of them are declining. There's a study, a Georgetown University-led study published in Nature Reviews Biodiversity, reveals that approximately 51% of migratory bird species are declining globally across all major flyways. The research, conducted with ornithologists from various international organizations, including India's State of India's Birds Partnership. Um, okay, yeah, really weird name, but okay.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, found that nearly 300 species are already globally threatened. In India, specifically, Arctic origin long distance migratory birds are declining faster than resident or shorter distance migrants. These declines stem from decades of environmental degradation. However, researchers emphasize that the decline is indeed reversible through targeted science based interventions and restoration efforts. Migratory birds play crucial ecological roles, regulating insect populations, dispersing seeds, pollinating plants, and supporting food webs across continents. They also connect millions of people to nature through bird watching and citizen science. And I think Oops is probably like a really good example for that because he really likes bird watching. He really loves taking photos of birds, and he's really good at talking about like the different kinds of birds. But what is really worrisome here is that 51% of these species are declining globally, which is the majority. And that is actually very worrisome, which means that the pace at which we are cutting down and we're developing and we're changing things, it's not okay for them. They're not able to cope up with our speed of
Mm-hmm.
development.
Mm. Just wanted to share the website for State of India's birds, and um, here is the website. They have done a great job at using illustrations and um photographs to highlight all the species that are here and the migratory species. As Meghna said, India gets a lot of migratory bird species and transient migrants as well, passage migrants as we call them. In a lot of different states. Um, and they have done a great job of highlighting those things and doing research on that. They've also done some videos in different languages like Tamil, Assamese, Hindi, all the local languages, Malayalam, and then there is Marathi, and then there is Odia, and etc. So we have been actually talking about something similar as well, to propagate these kinds of messages to more local populations in India. But they are doing a great job of like monitoring and research and identifying those threats as well. So this is a great website. Shout out to the State of India's Birds organization. Yeah, to
Yeah,
to
and
sort
I
of,
think
yeah.
we could always put a link of this in the pinned comment, right?
Yes, we will.
Yeah.
We will aim at that. And yeah, so talking about the birds, I think, as Vigna was saying, we get a lot of passage migrants. We get a lot of migrants coming from faraway places. Um, it is crucial that we protect the flyways. I like that term, flyways. You know, there is a lot of harm that airplanes do sometimes to these migratory birds like bar-headed geese and others. So yeah, it's crucially important that we preserve the flyways because we do not realize the importance of the birds in our ecosystems, but they are very very important. They are the Some birds are the sort of apex predators that maintain certain insect population, and make sure that their genetic diversity of those insects and pollination and all these different kinds of things, birds help us with. Um,
Yeah, and
yeah.
obviously seed dispersal, I think, because when you're flying and
Correct.
you're pooping, then
Hmm.
you're really helping with the seed dispersal. So it's very similar to how they have those helicopters or aeroplanes with a lot of seeds in them, and they're trying to like throw them on
Yeah.
a piece of land. It's similar to
Hmm.
that. Like when you have a lot of birds and they're flying and they're pooping everywhere, then they're naturally dispersing the seeds. And we need every animal out there now in an ecosystem. Every animal has its role, it has its place, and it has a way that it combines and works really well with the ecosystem. We're the only ones who kind of away from the ecosystem, or we have detached ourselves from the ecosystem, and we think of ourselves as superior to the ecosystem. And that is where the problem comes in, because we think of every other creature out there as inferior. So we rather not protect them. We rather not, make things easier for them. We rather not, try to coexist with them, but we try to show that all the land is for us, all the water is for us, everything is for us. But if we can change that mentality and go back to that age where we actually respected animals, we really were careful about our sacrifices and which animal we were consuming and in what and how much. I think if we can go back to that, if we can go back to being more focus towards our environment and protecting it, then I think we can have a better coexistence and a better chance at not letting this earth just go to, I don't know, whatever wherever it's going right now, like to this next mass
Hmm.
extinction.
We spoke about the Northeast. We mentioned the Northeast in terms of their forest cover. The Northeast, in context of birds, we have to mention Northeast as well. So the one of the longest journeying birds is the Amur falcon, which comes from Siberia and flies to the east coast of Africa with a stopover in Manipur. So the Amur falcon almost traverses 22,000 kilometers while they're migrating, which is like, I don't even know, like even airplanes can't fly 22,000 kilometers without like refueling at least more than one time. That is the one refueling stop they have basically in Manipur on their way to East Africa. So from Siberia to Manipur. So Manipur, they do face great predation risk from humans. Similarly, in the western part of India, there is the sand grouse and spotted sand grouse, which sort of migrates from the Himalayas to some areas
Sorry.
in Pakistan, and they also face similar kinds of predation risk from humans. We kill them and sort of eat them. Um, yeah, I don't know. We can limit ourselves to chicken. I don't know. Chicken is a bird that we eat and it's delicious. So we can limit ourselves to chicken.
No, 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 no. Don't even go there, because the way that the chicken are abused and they're pumped with antibiotics and then they're cooped in small spaces, and the kind of abuse that chickens go through, even though they're supposed to be really, really intelligent animals, if you've ever kept a chicken.
And we
No.
did an episode on like the intelligence and the booba kiki effect in chickens as well.
Oh, yes, with the little chickies. That is
Uh-huh.
true. Yeah. I don't think any animal out there
I mean,
deserves to.
again, like we have to, if we have to, then we have to focus our efforts towards one animal. And chicken is that domesticated species, at least the domesticated species of chicken.
No, I think,
um
see, if you're going to make changes to your diet, then you don't stop at like, oh, red meat, white meat, and all of that. Then you make changes to your diet in such a way that everyone out there is making changes, and then there is more land free for the animals. That's what David Attenborough said, right? Like, if all of us change to a majorly plant-based diet, then we would open up a lot of space, one where the cattle is growing, two where the food for the cattle is growing. So both of them would be free, and then that would mean more forest space for the birds and animals.
Hmm. Yeah. And that also means that we don't have to focus our efforts towards killing things like Amur falcon or, other exotic birds, monals, and things like that. So, yeah, it is a really challenging situation that we are in all over the world. Not only, again, we focused a little bit on India, but because there is a lot of Arctic migrants that sort of come to India or stop over at India, but the in the passage migration season, but this is a threat that is um, going out around the world about migratory bird species. And for these species, migration is one of the crucial functions in their life, um, because they can't survive the cold or survive the warmth, vice versa. They move to warmer places and things like that. And with them, they bring all the seeds and certain important factors that are necessary for those ecosystems in that specific time. So I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah,
It's
I just think that if we can actually change a lot of our habits and not just focus on development but focus on coexistence, focus on actually giving more space back to the animals and wildlife, then it will be a win-win situation. So
mm,
there's like a lot of you would say a lot of experiments also nowadays where they're saying that if you go into the forest, you listen to birdsong, or if you're if you go and spend a couple of hours in nature, you do something called forest bathing, you do all of these things and you actually have lesser stress levels, you're happier, you're more content you're more content in your life. So I think nature is telling us that we really really need to go back to our roots, like we really need to go back and connect with nature, because we're happiest when we're in nature without knowing
mm,
it. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. I think that is the crucial part there, and it will be a win-win situation. I do believe that as well. If we give space to, and then we don't have to worry about things like global warming and other things like that, because nature will take care of itself. If the only thing that nature needs, and all the animals encapsulated in the nature needs, is basically the space, and it will revert back. Mm.
Yeah, it needs nothing else from us, just some space
Yes.
and some non-interference. That's all. But yep. Okay, so what else do we have next?
Yeah. So I think, continuing this trend of decline, we will speak about the Kenyan elephants that are mysteriously found dead. This is again a report from Mongabe, which says Kenya investigates mysterious deaths of 15 elephants in Amboseli. Kenya Wildlife Services is investigating the deaths of 15 elephants in the Amboseli Savannah near Tanzania border between June 24 and July 24, 2026. Located at Kimana Sanctuary and Kuku Ranch, 10 elephants displayed similar symptoms, including partial paralysis before dying within 1 or 2 days, primarily affecting adult females and calves. Five additional carcasses were too decomposed to analyze. The University of Nairobi detected toxic substance in samples, though the government chemist lab reported negative results. With further analysis ongoing, authorities are investigating potential common sources, including water. Tracked elephants alerted authorities to deaths when movement stopped. The condition transmissible is not transmissible to humans. Local officials and wildlife organizations demand answer and sustained investment in wildlife protection. I think, excuse me, Africa has generally done pretty well in elephant conservation, um, when they're not giving licenses for, what do you call them, game
Hunting?
hunting. Yeah,
Hunting and the trophy hunting, yeah.
trophy hunting. Um, so I think this sounds to me like there can be some kind of contaminant in some sort of food source, and
It
that
could be a food
contaminant,
source, it could be a water source. We
yeah.
would not know.
Mm,
And we also don't know, like, what kind of contaminants probably affect elephants as opposed to us. So it is
mm,
possible that the same contaminant that affects them may or may not affect us, even if it is a shared water resource or a shared water source. Or if it is not a shared water source and if it is like ponds inside the sanctuary or ranch, then that is something which is really something that they need to inspect, analyze, and then change. So maybe they need to probably change the entire area and maybe close those points and then open up a new point. If it is like something which is human managed, then that is one way to go about it, because elephants can be really sensitive to changes.
Mm, yeah, they are. And this can also be, more likely than not, I think it would be a human made chemical, because I don't know, nature,
I mean, it
it.
has to be. It has to be more or less always. It's human-made chemicals, and
Mm,
the shocking part is that it was just 1 month, June 24th to July 24th, just 1 month and 15 elephants. So they should have kind of like raised the alarms way before, like the whole 1 month period, when they saw like the first couple of elephants dying, and they saw partial paralysis in them before they died, which meant that there was like a streak of symptoms which were very similar. Now in humans, when people start dying like due to COVID or other things, and everyone has similar symptoms, then there are alarms raised, there are like a lot of steps taken. There has to be similar ways of steps being taken here, like the Kimana Sanctuary or the Kuku Ranch. All the elephants should be transferred from here, and then or everything checked, that everything is in place, the water sources are not contaminated, the food sources are not contaminated, and then only give their license back to them, to run
mm.
that sanctuary.
Also, the conflicting lab results, the government lab declaring a negative result, and that is suspicious as well, a little bit. Because government chemist lab, again, I don't know if they're operating under some instructions or certain other
Money.
motivations. Yeah,
Yes.
money.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the resolution is expected, and I think the local NGOs and local advocacy groups are fighting for that. So yeah, I think, and the world's eyes are on that as well. So we will keep track of this story and report back if anything else does come up.
Yeah. Yeah, we will, and we really hope that the investigations go through fairly, and that there's like a full time stop to these deaths.
Mm, yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
okay, heading on to the next topic. It's about carbon markets. So, how carbon markets can succeed and also serve global south communities. Forests provide critical ecosystem services and store vast amounts of carbon dioxide, yet face pressure requiring sustained economic incentives. Voluntary carbon markets were designed to direct private finance towards forest protection, rewarding communities and landowners. However, the system has consistently underperformed. Not, not surprising. Over the
Mm,
past decade, evidence reveals many forest conservation carbon credits, particularly in the global south, have failed to deliver the climate outcomes they claimed. The sector has documented cases of significant social harm to indigenous and local communities, while scientific analysis shows emissions reduction methodologies significantly overestimate results. Trust in the market has eroded among both buyers and civil society. True conservation must ensure communities protecting forests become primary beneficiaries of ecosystem service value, not victims of exploitation. And I think this is where the problem is, like, even though these markets were voluntary and they were to direct private finance towards these kind of initiatives, like a CSR initiative or NGOs or donations or other kind of ways that the finance is being directed towards them. At the same time, because there's a lot of money involved, people can get greedy, and people can get greedy to the extent that the money that has to go where it has to go, it doesn't go there.
mm, 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 mm.
Yeah.
I think the other part about um, carbon market or carbon credits is that it's it's a way of shoving the responsibility that we have, or the developed nations have, or the people with money have, shoving that responsibility off, shipping off that responsibility to a developing nation, or a nation with, you know like a lot of non-urban environment, spaces.
No, I don't
So,
think so. It's that way. I mean, I don't know about the carbon credit system, but here the carbon markets that they're talking about, they were
mm,
made in a way that the money that was coming in, that they would be used for the forests that were more at risk, and that they would actually reward those who are protecting these forests and are taking responsibility. So the carbon markets were made in a way that you actually um encourage the people to keep saving the forest. But the problem somewhere, whatever the chain and the link was, it's not going till the end consumer or the end product, which is the forest. Like the forests are not getting all the money that is being pumped into the system.
mm, I'm trying to understand what is this carbon market actually.
um so I think it is actually it's with, I think, the carbon credits as well. So it's basically to say that there is a lot of carbon stored in the forest, and this carbon that is stored is something that needs, like, you need to store more and more carbon. I think it is a link with the carbon credits itself. So when you pump money into that market, then you're pumping more money into protection of the forest, because you're trapping a lot of carbon inside the forest. So you're helping and you're saying that you're doing good for the environment by financing the forest. The problem is that when you're financing, it's not going to the landowners, it's not going to the ranges, it's not going to the local communities that are actually saving. There are it's going the opposite way, because there is money in this market. So there is a lot of exploitation that's happening with the indigenous and local communities, and there's a lot of what do you say, a lot of corruption in how these emission reductions are being even calculated.
Mm.
So all of
So
that is
what I know of carbon credits is that how they work is you basically give money in exchange for one tree planted. So they will say that this species of tree stores X amount of carbon in a year after 5 years. So if I want to offset my emission, I make an emission of um, five 100,000 tons a year. So I will buy like 50 trees or 100 trees, whatever that, or credits. That new plantation, the afforestation, is converted into these credits, and that then it is traded in the carbon market, where they say, okay, we have planted 50 trees and they have reached maturity, so they are capturing 500,000 tons in carbon per year. You are trying to offset 500,000 tons in carbon per year, so we will sell you 50 carbon credits or 500, whatever the unit is. So that is the way the carbon markets work, from what I know. Now, the problem there is afforestation is not good. So you can't trade credits from what forests already exist, because they are already absorbing the carbon. You have to plant, the whole system works in a way, in my knowledge, that you have to plant more trees to give these rich people the illusion that, okay, those trees are capturing more carbon, that therefore we can trade these credits in the market. But the problem there is afforestation is, when deforestation is bad, but afforestation or monoculture is equally bad. And there are pretty a few pretty great videos on YouTube on why afforestation is bad, that I would recommend everyone listening to check out. But afforestation is equally as bad. You can't replace a forest just by planting one kind of trees. And since this is a
So you're saying
financially,
afforestation is only bad if you're planting one kind of trees, but if you go and you know what trees survive there, and then
yes.
plant local trees, and you're building the riparian, like you're kind of recovering the riparian forest kind of thing, then
Mm-hmm.
that's fine.
Then that's again, we don't know, because nobody has tried to do like a mass large scale afforestation of a proper forest. Some people have tried, in smaller areas, and that has worked well, and that has seen, I know one of the guides in Ranthambore, Rajasthan. um, he has he bought a piece of land and he reforested that area. Um, so and he saw, return of a lot of wildlife, and that has worked. But since this is a money motivated market, do you think people will spend that much time in trees which take like 20 years to mature and things like that, or 50 years to mature
Yeah,
and
but
reach its
the whole
potential?
point is that if you really need the, if you can keep milking in money to grow the even the trees that need a lot of time to mature, or
Hmm.
other kind of trees, you know that
Hmm.
in the future that is what will cause better outcomes than
Yes,
just.
but the billionaires just want to offset their, private jet flights that they took to, eat some cake in Paris. How do
But
they
i
do that?
think i think this entire carbon credit system is like a
Is a
farce in the
sham. Is
sense.
a farce.
Yeah,
Yes, it
yeah,
is. That is what
yeah,
I'm trying to say.
it is a
It is
sham because
just a
it's.
way for billionaires to shove responsibility and just normalize, or deal with them flying to some country to eat some cake or
But
something like that.
it's not just billionaires. It's like even we are asked when we're booking flights and all, do you want to buy so many carbon credits, right?
Exactly.
It's
Like,
everyone who is booking flights out there. They want you to
so
feel
that the
bad
flight
about.
companies can feel good about running these massive jets that
Absolutely. Yeah,
emit these massive amounts of carbon. Yeah.
yeah, I mean it's the company that's running and expanding and having more flights and more fleet and everything.
Mhm.
So why are we the ones responsible to offset their carbon is what I don't understand. Like, why are we spending money
They are
to
selling it
say.
as like, oh, you are taking this flight, so your carbon footprint and our carbon footprint is, we have a carbon footprint, everyone does, but it is negligible compared to what all these billionaires are spending and doing, in a day, maybe in an hour or something like that. So it's a great way for rich people and for some small people like us as well, to feel good about ourselves, that okay, we
Yeah, but
have made all these emission, but then we'll buy carbon credits and just forget about it because that will offset automatically.
I think that feel good activity is the same as, like, you would when you're buying something and they say, oh, do you want to like spend one more rupee to give to this feed donation program to feed like
Yeah, some
poor people.
children from
Yeah,
slums
or
in
yes.
India or something like that, they'll show that image and they'll say, do you want to round
Yeah,
off
it's.
or something?
Yeah, and it's just a feel good thing. I don't know if it actually reaches them or not.
No.
And carbon credits is the same way. Like, so there is a forest, and there is like some trees probably being planted, like how Oops said, but nobody knows if it's the right trees. Nobody knows if there's actual compliance. Nobody knows if there's actually like good happening for the people there. But here it does say that the indigenous communities are being violated and they're being
Mm.
suppressed. So which means that the indigenous communities probably know which trees have to be saved and which forests need to go there, and they don't have a say. And the carbon market is just growing bigger and bigger, only because of our guilt, like because we're
Mm.
feeling guilty about what we're doing for the environment. So
And we
if
want to
just
shove
keep
our
on.
responsibility, like we have shoved the responsibility of slaughtering animals to a select few slaughterhouses so we don't have to see. It's like pushing things under the rug and we don't have to worry about it. And markets, you trade. So since this is a money motivated market, there inevitably will come a time where real forests are cleared to make way for these monoculture forests, so that they, because what is the motivation? We want to grow trees that grow
I think
fast, and the
I
second one is we want to grow trees that capture the most amount of carbon. So speed and carbon capture,
true,
those will be the motivations.
but when trees are cut down, I think they would be primarily now cut down for data service for AI than actually afforestation. Like that will
And then
actually
then
be.
the data server people will say that, okay, let me plant trees somewhere else to offset this trees that these thousands of year old trees that we have cut
And
down.
those trees that they will plant, some other data center will cut down. It's going to be like a run. Like there are protests across a lot of places in India for data centers because they are displacing a lot of indigenous communities in a lot of
Absolutely.
places. And it is just the starting, because if AI is going to be growing at the pace that it is growing, it would need way more data centers, way more water, way more space, and way more heat which is being released into the atmosphere. Nothing's good about that. Nothing is good about carbon credits. I think this sham needs to be like put a stop to. Like if you really want to finance, you want to feel good, then you finance the indigenous communities that actually know what they're doing. And then have like an audit in between to see what the indigenous communities are doing, give them the money and let them protect their land. They would be more than
Hmm.
happy to protect their land.
I agree. I agree there. There is no point in the propagating monoculture, and and we also have to be willing to take blame or live with that guilt, because otherwise we will
Yeah,
continue
we will
doing these
never.
things.
Yeah, then we'll continue like doing everything that we do, and we'll just say, oh, we'll just buy a few carbon credits to offset it.
Mm,
We shouldn't do that. We have to like make changes, and we have to do these. We have to make small sacrifices or bigger sacrifices in terms of our diet, in terms of our lifestyle, uh, because the earth is burning and we can see
mm,
the earth burning. So yeah, like it is something we have to do. We don't have a choice now.
right. And I kind of disagree with the optimistic tone of this commentary. It There is a very slim chance that it can succeed. And knowing human nature, we won't be willing to put up with what it takes to succeed in a proper carbon market. There are some
Absolutely.
options in this commentary as well, where what Meghna has said exactly, it alludes to that, giving those money to the indigenous communities, uh, strengthening that time that it takes to grow a new tree, planting a proper forest instead of just monoculture trees, depending on local knowledge and communities being impacted. So I don't know if the billionaires are willing to do that.
Yeah, and also the discussion question for this article was very funny. It says, if protecting forests is worth trillions, why aren't those risking their lives to save them getting rich?
Mm.
Which is so true, because the ones protecting them are not the ones getting the money. So
Mhm.
which is why nobody's getting rich out there. The only ones who are already getting rich are the ones who would rather not protect the forest. So
Right.
yes. Okay. Heading on to the next topic.
Yeah. Um. Again, we spoke a lot about climate, related things about climate change, but I think we also have a duty to speak about the flip side of things, because climate anxiety is also very real. So this is a um, report from The Guardian, which says climate anxiety was consuming me. And then I learned to laugh about it. Climate anxiety from researching existential threats that led Emily Strasser to enroll in stand up comedy classes. Oh, you can get stand up comedy classes. I didn't know that.
Mhm.
Very good. She developed, quote, sustainable stand up, unquote, a course teaching social and economical environmental professionals to communicate serious messages through humor. The program has trained NASA scientists, lawyers, activists, and humanitarian workers internationally. Research supports this approach. Laughter provides health benefits, while comedy training helps people reframe difficult experiences, strengthen social bonds, and build confidence. Evidence suggests that learning comedy benefits mental health. The UK's National Health Service now offers comedy as a mental health intervention through its social prescribing program. Wow. Referring patients to creative and social activities supporting overall well being. In facing collective political and planetary challenges, humor and resilience through comedy offers a valuable coping mechanism. Now, while we understand, and Meghna, I would want to hear your thoughts, but while we understand that, it can be a lot of things that we often keep saying, and shows like us, keep feeding you. Um, I don't know if laughter and reframing it in a lighter way could be the solution.
It definitely could be, see, because there are different kind of audiences. Now there are people who absolutely love to, hear and talk about environment like we do. Like, oh, we really need to talk about it. We need to discuss about it. This is what's happening in the world. The world is burning. Now that's one way to see it. But then if there are people out there, like a stand-up comedian who is there on the stage, there are people who don't know what's happening in the environment, don't care about what's happening in the environment. For those people, especially who are unaware, it's a great way to get them slowly into this space through humor. Because even though it's humor, you know that you're talking about really, real things. A lot of stand-up comedians use humor
Mm.
to kind of deflate situations. So they're talking about the same situation, it's the same serious situation. Let it be, like, let's say if they're talking about something political, they're talking about something else. It's all serious things, but they just try to make it light by adding humor into it, but they're still sending the message across very, very strongly. So I think that is a good way if you're catering to the audience who is not very, very climate aware.
Mm. So you're saying that is a good perspective that I did not have, for 2 minutes earlier. So, just hammering the message, but in a light form, it might take a little bit longer, but then the message slowly starts seeping in.
It is like, how the green humor guy,
Mm,
the Roman Chakravarti. So he makes all these images that are funny, but he
mm,
talks about really serious topics and really serious changes that are happening across the world. But he uses his humor to sarcastically quote these changes, and that it really
mm.
works because he's known across for his comics, especially for the satire.
Internationally, yeah.
Yeah, so humor does work, and stand-up comedians have their own fan following, and it's great if they can send like environmental messages out, because it's the same thing. Like, you look after an idol or a hero, and this is one way. And climate anxiety is real. Like, I think I told Oops that there was a time when I felt like no matter what I did, how much I did, it was never enough. So it is very easy to go down this rabbit hole where you feel like, what else can I do? Why am I doing so less? Why am I such a failure in saving the climate? And you need things to take you away from that. So either mentally you become stronger, that okay, I can do whatever I can, and everything else will fall in place if it has to, or when it does. Or the other way is to laugh about it, which they are doing. So if they are making people laugh about it, they're laughing about it themselves, even though they care about the environment so much. It is a way to kind of relieve your stress, but also make sure you're passing on that message.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, because I started with the idea of maybe, you know, commodifying it, the message loses its potential, but that is not the goal. The potential is not the goal, but the message seeping into a person is the goal. So I think, yeah,
Yeah,
I
and I think the way you're making something funny is also in a way that you're not taking away from the message. Like, how green humor doesn't take away from the message, he in fact
right.
instills it harder by
Hmm.
using satire. So,
Hmm.
or sarcasm. So that is a way that these comedians are also using. So when they make fun of the government, or when they make fun of our efforts for the environment, they're actually mocking, and they want you to do better. So it's a way to instill the message for the masses to move. So it can be serious or comedy, but as long as that message is actually going to the masses, it's going to do something about it. Like, like it will have an impact.
Hmm. Hmm. That's a great way, actually. Hmm.
Yeah.
And people
Plus,
can be surprised. They're going to
yeah.
comedy show, but they also get like a side of climate awareness. Mm.
True. And you know what happens? Like when we talk about serious things, you need to be like in a frame of mind to talk about serious stuff. Like you don't just sit down with friends and be like, oh, let's talk about climate change or let's talk about how the earth is burning. You reach those topics sometimes and you rather avoid them because you don't want to like talk about serious topics. But with jokes, they linger in your head for a long time, and you go and you retell jokes, so the retelling quotient is higher in jokes than with serious stories. So then these jokes that are retold again and again and again, then they have a higher reach and a broader reach, and that can actually like impact more people.
Mm. Mm. Absolutely true. So again, I think if you're a comedian, um, you can enroll to
This
this
program, yeah.
this program actually, and yeah, maybe include some humor and some messaging into your comedic routines, and you might find new types of routines or new things to do with you if you're you know going through a writer's block or something like that. So yeah, it's great.
Yep. Okay, so what do we have next? Um, yeah, we have the story about the tiniest turtle in,
Mm.
we're going to talk about how Hurricane Helene. After Hurricane Helene, the country's tiniest turtle is even closer to extinction. The southern bog turtle, North America's smallest turtle species, measures just a quarter inch at hatching and reaches only mouse sized in adulthood. Identifiable by distinctive orange, red, or yellow neck patterns, these adorable creatures inhabit shallow wetlands called fens in the Blue Ridge Mountain of North Carolina. Wildlife biologist D.J. Apodaca actively studies these imperiled reptiles, which were already struggling before Hurricane Helene struck in September 2024. The powerful hurricane devastated their habitat by flooding the fens with massive amounts of water, worsening their dire situation. Southern bog turtles rank among North America's most endangered reptiles, with populations dwindling rapidly. Conservation efforts are underway to protect these tiny creatures and build them a new home as they face an uncertain future.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, and I think the discussion question is also very interesting. It says when hurricanes reshape ecosystems overnight, can conservation efforts ever catch up, or are we always one disaster behind? I think we are
Mm.
always one disaster behind. So if the hurricanes are increasing, their intensity is increasing, it can all be mapped down to a hotter climate or a hotter, environment. And so we are to blame for these hurricanes and reshaping ecosystems. Now, there might be a reason how they're reshaping or they want to reshape ecosystems. When nature takes its own course, there's a reason for nature to take its own course, and we can still, put our efforts in to save a species or save something. But at the same time, we cannot kind of dictate nature how nature has to behave. I feel like we're always one disaster behind. We can never catch up.
Mm. Um, that is true, unfortunately, because we have built so many interdependent things that can harm nature all at once. That if one does not one day, then the other is already ready for causing that harm. Wanted to share certain other images of the turtle as well. You can see the size of the turtle and the beautiful neck patterns, the yellow neck patterns it has. The size of the turtle is tiny, very tiny, maybe smaller than the palm of your hand. And the neck patterns are beautiful as well. It says southern bog turtles are often hard for amphibian and reptile conservancy researchers and volunteers to find. The notoriously reclusive reptiles can be readily identified by splashy splotches. Splotches. What's that? Of
Splotches are like, how paint splotches happen, like just like,
mm, oh,
yeah.
I thought it was called blotch, but I don't know. Um, of yellow on the neck. So splotches, new word. That's one image, and then the other one you can see. Oh, it's even tinier than the palm of your hands. Like it's so tiny. When researchers find a southern bog turtle, they record its measurements. Typically, full grown turtles reach only 4 inches. They're tiny, tiny turtles. But see, nature is amazing. Like nature has created this turtle, which is tiny, like a 4 inch turtle, and it has its place in the ecosystem. It is contributing something to the ecosystem. So it's beautiful and looking beautiful as well. So you can imagine what this smaller creature, how hard a time it can have surviving in a flash flood.
Yeah. And plus the thing is, obviously, if you're an inland turtle and you stay in like a small pond which has like this amount of level, so there is also algae and other things that are the turtle's food. Could be like
Hmm.
other small fishes or could be like other small plants. Now when a lot of water would come in, that changes their it not only like it's not the flooding that is the problem with the turtles, because they can swim in the water. It is their access to food that gets harder. So that access to food and trying to survive, and with all that water, is the problem where it goes. So earlier, if their food was just a couple of inches below them and they could just go and come back, now it is like a couple of feet below them, and then that is going to be more tough. Also, they might be flushed out to other places, because if there's too much water, it is possible that it's not just the pond, but there are like other areas or a smaller pond that is being created, and they're like being pushed on to places where there is no food at all.
Yeah. So I think, again, hurricanes is not something we would be able to control, but we can control the response we have, aftermath of an hurricane, and how we put our efforts. And I think conservation, again, we are not living under a rock. We know conservation needs a lot of money. So I think how the money is also directed after such a, again, humans that have lost lives or lost homes, um, they have to be, you know, taken care of, but also the tiniest turtles. So no animal left behind. That's kind of the message there. I think it was
Yeah,
the message of, like the biblical message of Noah's ark, right? No one left behind. Mm.
yeah. And I think like a lot of inland turtles, like if you I don't know about from where you're listening to this show, but if you are from India and a lot of other places, in wells people used to keep turtles
Oh,
in
really?
their wells. Yeah. There are wells at like there are wells with turtles at the bottom of them, and they say that primarily because turtles kind of eat the dirt and they kind of filter the water and they keep the
Mm.
water clean. A lot of times, turtles are actually introduced to clean the water, and like if the turtles are there, it actually signals that this is a clean groundwater and healthy water kind of thing. So it's the same with the wetlands. So if there are turtles there, it signals that there's like clean groundwater and healthy functional wetlands. So
Mm.
they are ecological indicators, like apart from their maybe seed dispersal and other kind of things, they're ecological indicators, and which is why people have turtles. You've never heard of turtles in wells, like in India?
No, actually not. Actually not.
Yeah, they do say like they
I'm.
actually introduce them into the
Hmm.
wells for the for clean groundwater.
Yeah, that's interesting and amazing. You have a personal story with a turtle as well. Maybe
Yeah, it's
reshare the
actually.
story, and you have shared it on stream. Maybe reshare it with our audience.
Yeah, but I think I was actually looking at that turtle size and I was thinking, oh yeah, it reminds me of my turtle. So yeah, like I was gifted a turtle almost I think maybe 15 years back by a friend, and I
Were you
thought,
close to that
oh,
turtle?
very very close to the turtle. I
Hmm.
have a tattoo. I have a
Wow.
memorial tattoo of the turtle with the name and the turtle. So
Hmm.
I actually he was a freshwater turtle,
Hmm.
and I studied about, like how to identify the sex, and it is from below their tails that you can identify their sex. And yeah, like, when I was gifted the turtle, I assumed like the tortoise, like, like the tortoise, like, the turtle would live for 100 years, and I could pass on the turtle, like if I ever had children, like, just pass on the turtle, like the turtle would outlive me. But sadly, one, they're freshwater turtles, they were not meant to be in the cold environment of Delhi in the winters. So after a couple of years, it got pneumonia. It couldn't survive, and it died from pneumonia, is what the vets told me. And even the sale and purchase of turtles is actually illegal, because it is classified as a type 1 endangered
Schedule one.
animal, or
Yeah,
a
schedule
schedule 1
ones.
animal. It's a schedule 1 animal, so you're not supposed to trade in them. But people used to illegally do that, and back then everyone wanted a turtle at home. I don't know why the craze was there, maybe with the Chinese feng shui or something. People wanted turtles, but a lot of people also got the turtles, used to chop them up and eat them, because they thought it cured their asthma or something.
Mm.
So yeah, for a lot of reasons it was really bad. I didn't know better that time, but I know better now, and I would not, like, suggest anyone to get a turtle unless it's supposed to be locally there, and you can actually give it the space, and you can give it the environment that it needs. And maybe just if it actually needs rescuing, if it can just be left in the wild, then probably better for it to be left in the wild than be brought home. But having said
Yeah.
that, oops, I think we could actually try to call this researcher on board
Mm.
and talk to him about this turtle.
Yeah. We can certainly try. But that story is, I like that story because it also highlights like you can be close to an animal and not know the impact that you're having on that animal at the same time. And also it also highlights like, the importance of the habitat these animals generally have. Keeping huskies in Rajasthan is not a good idea. Similarly, keeping warm water freshwater animal
Cold
in a
environment.
non-freshwater cold environment is also not a good idea. So I think
And And yeah, this one thing though, like, even though my turtle was this tiny, it was this
hmm,
tiny, it knew my hand. So, like, when my friends would come over and they would want to hold my turtle, if I was holding him, he would be absolutely calm in my hand, because he just knew my hand. The moment I would give him to someone else, he would just, like, like move his arms and legs, and just want to get out. But obviously, like, because they have a shell, and it's very hard for them to wriggle out, as opposed to like a dog or a cat. He used to take some time to kind of figure out, oh, who is this person holding me. So imagine, like, they know from the outside that it's not you. So it doesn't matter how small or big the animal is,
hmm,
you can really develop a bond with the animal.
hmm. I think that brings me to another discussion that was hearing the Neil deGrasse Tyson, one of the podcasts that we have humans have um, propagated this idea amongst ourselves that we have a big brain. No, we don't have a big brain, and there are like a lot of animals with bigger brains than us. And two, that we have the biggest brain comparison to our body size or body mass or whatever, and that makes us superior somehow. That is also not true. Parrots and other certain other animals have bigger brains than us compared to their body mass or body size. So we work under these false pretenses that we are the most intelligent animals in the world. Certainly because we have colonized other animals and we have colonized the entire world. That is a great indicator. Maybe other animals are not interested in colonizing the world, and they're just happy living their own lives. And they're just watching us burn. Let them do the burning, and we will just uh,
survive after they have burned and they have left, then we will survive. So I mean, because the earth has gone through 5 mass extinctions, this is going to be the
mm,
sixth one, and
yeah,
the earth will survive. It's just that we
Earth
are
will
not going to
survive.
be the ones surviving.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
So I think that's a beautiful effort by the scientists, but at the same time, I think the governments and the money that are being funded should be directed towards the right causes at the right time. So yeah.
Yeah, and we'll keep you updated. We will try to get this researcher to talk to us. So let's see how that pans out. But heading to the next topic.
And I think we will do this one where it says a study investigates how to prevent viral spread from bat guano in Southeast Asia. So, again, if any listeners in Southeast Asia, listen up. Scientists discovered bat linked viruses in commercial bat guano fertilizers sold in Thailand markets. The study screened 41 fertilizer samples, finding genetic material belonging to mm, beta coronavirus, oh my god, alpha coronavirus genera that include strains responsible for COVID 19, SARS, and MERS pandemics. Specifically, these samples tested positives, two containing alpha coronaviruses and one containing beta coronaviruses, closely related to the sarbecovirus subgenus, which includes SARS-CoV-2. Again, we know it as the SARS epidemic. While these detected viral strains are not known to infect humans, the research highlights a significant safety concern. Bat guano harvested from caves is widely used as an agricultural fertilizer in Southeast Asia, creating potential exposure risks for harvesters and handlers. The findings prompt calls for stronger safety precautions throughout the fertilizer supply chain to prevent disease
Zoonotic.
transmissions, zoonotic disease transmissions as human wildlife proximity increases. If everyday, and the discussion question as we have is, if everyday products might harbor invisible viral threats, who bears the responsibility for prevention of disease spillover? This is an interesting one. I don't know how I feel
Um,
about this. Yeah.
I do want to ask you what
Mm,
exactly is the difference between alpha coronaviruses and beta coronaviruses, if you know, and also, if the the viral strains are there in the guano, why is it not a threat for humans? Like, how is it not infecting humans? But the epidemic that happened, they said that the bats had given it to us. So what happened then, and what is different that time with the with the, what was it called, the wet markets of the bats? Like, what was
mhm.
different then and what is different now in this guano sampling?
So I don't know the difference between the alpha and beta coronavirus, but what the impression that I get from reading this article is that the genus coronavirus, like a genus of an animal, contains many viruses, and alpha and beta are one of them. The COVID-19 virus, or the that strain of coronavirus, is what impacts humans, but these alpha and beta coronaviruses, they might not impact humans, they might impact bats or some other animal. Now the thing is, that's why we are not getting infected by the fertilizer or by consuming the plants or food that is grown in that fertilizer. But then people going into the caves to harvest this guano, we don't know what else is there. So that is the you know concern there, from what I understand in this article. So
Also, I wanted to know, like, is the bad guano found in the bottom of a cave? Like, is that how it works? Like that,
mm,
how it works with other birds, that the
mm.
droppings are just on the ground?
Droppings
Because
are just
I
on the ground.
see, because I know that with bats, they actually turn themselves upside down to pee. I've seen
Mm.
videos of that, and it's quite funny and it's quite cute. But I don't know how they poop. Do they poop the same way that they pee? Like, do they turn themselves upside down?
I think there is a, I don't know how true this is, but bats actually poop using their mouth, the mouth cavity. Um,
Oh, okay. Then it can make sense if they are upside down.
yeah. So so guano. I think for our audience that do not know, guano is the very nitrogen and phosphorus rich um, excrement of certain birds. And bats in this case we call it guano, just so we don't have to call it poop. And they are very useful in fertilizer. So early fertilizers before the chemical revolution, um, they were harvested primarily from these mounds in the middle of the ocean, where the mounds were created by seabirds actually uh, excreting over that particular rock or something. And seabirds, because they eat a lot of high protein dense fish and things like that, they had a super nutritious for the soil guano.
Oh, by the way, I just read online. So
Hmm.
basically, bats don't poop from their mouths.
No.
The maximum they do is if they're eating some fruit that needs, like, spitting out the pulp or the seeds, then that they do throw out of their mouths. But because they're upside down, a lot of people believe or have made stories and myths that
Yeah,
they poop from their mouths, and
I'm a
that is
victim
only
of
because
that.
of yes. And but they actually hang themselves straight up because they are a normal mammal like any other mammal, and they have the
Yes.
same structure with the anus at the bottom, and the
Yeah.
expelling happens from the anus. So they do poop just like any other animal. It's just that they prefer hanging upside down, but when they have to do their business, they hang the right way because that's the only way you can expel it from that end. So unless they want it on themselves, which nobody wants on themselves. So yeah, so bats don't. I think there's like a lot of myths and wrong
Yeah.
notions about bats. Like one, that bats are blind. Bats are not actually blind. So they have poor vision, just like sharks have poor vision. So they use echolocation, but they're not completely blind. Like, how they
Hmm.
say blind as a bat, blind as a bat. It's I don't even know why they use that because bats are not blind.
I mean, they don't use their eyes to navigate. I think that is what
But
that
they do use
means.
their eyes to see. It's not like they're only navigating using echolocation. They're using echolocation with their inability to see as well as maybe other animals can.
Mm,
So it's like a complementary thing. It's not like the primary thing.
right.
So yeah, so that way, like, there's a lot of things, and especially like animals like fruit bats, they actually use their vision along with their echolocation. Especially when you see them in the cities with the trees and everything, they're so perfectly timing their landings and going up because they have the vision with the with the help of echolocation.
Right. So I think, again, guano harvesting, I'm not saying that is bad inherently, but we have to figure out how to do it safely. And you know
Or maybe like give them like a alternative fertilizer, like the people using it, if you want to make sure that they're not putting their lives at risk. Or maybe give them some kind of safety equipment that they can wear and enter and pick up, like maybe even something as simple as gloves, or like a head mask and gloves, so that they're not
a
in direct
basic
contact.
PPE, a lean version of a PPE kit.
Yeah, like as long as something is provided so that they don't um because at the end of the day it's not the humans that would be blamed. So if the guano actually starts infecting the humans are going to go and butcher all the bats that they actually get the guano from. So it's not the bats fault that they're pooping. I mean, it's a natural process for them, but we will start blaming the bats just like we did in COVID-19. Like instead of
Mm,
blaming ourselves for those stupid wet markets, we blame the bats for existing.
mm.
Yeah.
I think also the research needs to continue on whether the food grown in this particular kind of fertilizer is can be harmful for humans. So that I think already will continue. But yeah, just pointing that as out as well. The other thing you said about fertilizers, the problem is the synthetic fertilizers are even worse for the
No, no,
environment.
there are other fertilizers as well. Like they can do composting there and then use composting as a fertilizer.
Oh, yeah, that is true. Yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah,
the
you
other
just have to
natural
make
forms
like
you mean, like
obviously
bone marrow and things like that.
bone marrow. Oh, okay, I didn't know if
Bone dust is a very good kind of fertilizer. Yeah.
that. I don't know, but I do know that even like things like the leftover tea leaves that you have after you make tea, or the leftover
Not in
coffee grinds.
commercial farming, Meghna.
No, no.
It can be
I
used for your local like garden, kitchen garden or something like that.
no, but you
But
could
commercial
always
farming,
no, but you could mix it with the compost waste, and it
hmm.
was like it's like an additional fertilizer, not the primary fertilizer. But there are like a lot of natural fertilizers out there. If you don't want to send people into that
Into that
cave,
cave.
yeah. But if you have to send people into that cave and you still are on the edge about what that can mean, then this is one way to do it.
Yeah. So bats, I think, is going to stay in our collective psyche for a long time because of coronavirus and how impactful it was. And
And because of
s-
Batman,
I mean, coronavirus, I believe, will surpass is has surpassed Batman. Maybe there will be a Corona Man, a villain sometime, sometime when we have gotten over
or
the shock.
maybe we are the villain. There's still a controversy of if it was a lab made virus versus not, because if
Mm.
bats had to give viruses, those wet markets have been existing for a long time, and
And
people
like
have been
this,
collecting guano from a long time. So but
mhm,
it's not affected us, so we no no, like all of that is speculation.
yeah.
Yeah, but we like to blame the bats than actually blame the Chinese, I guess. But yeah. um but yes. So unless you want to do like some short story, should we like start wrapping up?
Um, there are two short stories that we had marked, but yeah, I think we can either wrap up or let me just read what are those short stories.
Okay, let me do one short story and you can do one short story and we can wrap it up.
Yeah.
um yeah, I had marked a couple of short stories if we had time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is something that I think talking to you about. Actually, I didn't realize that this was what I was marking. So listening to bird song in a forest lowered a person's stress during experiment. Oops, before I go into reading this, there is like a lot of background sound. Can
Mm.
you
Okay.
something?
Maybe. Yeah. I will
Yeah,
fix
no.
that.
Okay. Listening to birdsong in a forest lowered a person's stress during experiment. A new study published in Environmental Conservation found that sitting in a restored urban forest while listening to birdsong significantly reduced stress and improved mood. Researchers at North Carolina State University had 106 students sit in either a restored riparian forest or a paved plaza while listening to birdsong or traffic noise through noise cancelling headphones. Both the natural setting and birdsong independently contributed to well being, while their combined effect producing the strongest results. Participants in the forest hearing birdsong reported average stress scores of 3.2 on an 11-point scale compared to 6.4 for those on the plaza hearing traffic. The forest birdsong combination also produced the highest positive emotions and strongest sense of mental restoration. Mismatched conditions fell between these extremes. And this was what I think we were talking about a while earlier, that if you're in nature, if you go listen to birdsong, if you're just there and present in nature, you would see a reduction in your stress. That means more happiness, more content, more contentment. And this is exactly what is happening with this study. And it just
Mm.
emphasizes and re-emphasizes that our connection with nature is something that we shouldn't break.
Yeah. There's a this is I think the forest bathing is a Japanese concept construct. Shirin Yoku,
Yuko, yeah.
one of our batchmates when we were at university made a film about it. I don't know if it's available online, but yeah, it we come from the forest. We are forest children, so it's no surprise that forest bathing actually can cure, and birdsong can cure, because we used to wake up for like at least five. I would say the million years of human existence. 999,000 of those years we used to wake up to, and even now we do. If you are a rich person, um, you can live in a area which is sold to you as surrounded by nature with a big pond or something like that, and you can still wake up to birdsong. But we have done it without any money for a long duration in our species existence. So it's no surprise that that actually is ingrained in us, and that helps us reduce the stress. So beautiful. So, you know, touch some grass, spend time in nature. If you don't, even in the most congested of the cities, there will be certain parks and certain recreational areas like that. Go find them. I know Delhi, one of the most popular cities, has a lot of birds there. A lot of birders actually regularly go visit these parks and things like that. So,
There are actually like just bird parks as well, like the I think the
hmm,
Sultanpur Bird Sanctuary and the Asola Batti. These are actually for the birds. So when in the winter seasons there are walks and there are like e-vehicles that go through that, so you can go see the forest. Even Bharatpur is also a bird
Bharatpur is a
sanctuary.
short stone's throw away from
Yeah,
Delhi.
so there are a lot of birds. The thing is, I feel like probably this is also why I don't feel that happy in a city, because it's so depressing to just see like buildings and nothing else, like just buildings, cars, and maybe like a lot of liquor shops, and
Hmm.
that just doesn't cut it. Like you just want to be in nature. For me, I feel like the happiest when I'm in nature. So I feel like it would be great if you also get to experience that. Go out, do that walk, stay in nature, be just with trees, switch off your phone, don't take your phone only, and
Ah,
then
ah.
see how it feels.
Yeah, and I think India is slowly going towards that future where we are encouraging more parks in our cities and more trees in our cities. Some of the Western countries have a lot of state sanctioned and city sanctioned parks that has walks and things like that. For example, New York has Central Park, and if you live anywhere close to a park or a walk, a nature walk, make it a point not only for your physical well-being, but also your mental well-being. Physical well-being, as in like walking, is generally considered good for your health and stuff, but also this, listening to bird songs and listening, being in nature. Yeah, so that will be our message for today. Do
Yep,
some nature walking, and
absolutely.
yeah, I
And
think that's a
oops,
good place to wrap it up. It's a beautiful story to wrap it up with.
are you
Because
sure
the
you
other
don't want
story is a
to?
little.
Yeah, but I thought it was something that you would love to talk about. That is why I have
um
marked it.
Yeah, I can talk about it. And this is another thing that we do not see the other side of. The hidden polluter in your wardrobe, how fast fashion is fueling the next pollution crisis. And again, this does not come to mind. You can be like, oh, fabric, it comes from the nature mostly. Again, how can it be pollution? But it is. So, fast fashion refers to mass produced clothing designed to quickly replicate runway trends at minimal cost. This industry model aims to deliver new designs to consumers in record time, creating an endless cycle of production and consumption. Globalization and e commerce have accelerated this trend with social media influencers. Oh my God, ah, I get like a allergic reaction when I hear that. And online shopping fueling weekly demand for fresh collections. Unlike the past, when new styles arrived seasonally. Yeah, I remember that time, spring, summer, autumn, winter, and things like that. Brands now produce continuously to stay competitive. The rapid production cycle has significant environmental consequences. The fashion industry accounts for approximately 8 to 10%. My goodness, that is too much. I was like, maybe it was zero point 0.8 or zero point 0.1. But yeah, 8 to 10%. Like, can't imagine the scale of the carbon emissions that fashion industry contributes to. And it contributes nearly 20% of the world's wastewater. The constant demand for affordable, trendy clothing drives manufacturers to produce massive quantities of garments, perpetuating unsustainable consumption patterns and environmental degradation. How do I talk about this? Because me as a person, I am thankfully not at all into. you know, clothing or fashion. That is not a form of expression. But for some people, it is a form of expression, like, right? Expressing their identity through their clothes.
Yeah, a
So
lot of people even get confidence through the clothes they wear. So it's like a part of their identity, which has never made sense to me. But the sad part is it's not the linkage of what clothes is. What clothes give you more confidence. It is the problem with how much you're consuming it and how much your demand is fueling the industry. So this fast fashion is actually a lot of clothes being designed, and the how you go to these shops and you see, oh, new in store, new in store, new in store, and these stores are huge. Okay, all of these fast fashion stores like H&M and Zara and other kind of brands, and people just want to buy clothes now, and they rip these clothes really soon, and then they keep buying clothes. That is where the problem is. That demand is where the problem is. It's okay if you're buying like nice clothes once in a while, and then you're using it for a load of years. I still have like clothes from 10 years back, 15 years back that I'm still using. And I don't see a point of, just buying clothes until and unless, you really like your clothes are not really torn, or, you absolutely cannot use them. Why do you have to change them? Like, just keep washing the same clothes and wearing them. How many clothes do you need as a person?
that is a good question. And I am always surprised by some of my friends, you know, when I'm visiting their house or something, I look at their closet, or maybe they're showing off their, newest walk-in closet and things like that. I'm always surprised by the amount of clothes a person can own. Um, I don't understand that, but I am so that's why I'm not in a position to criticize that. I don't understand that drive of buying new clothes. You know,
Yeah,
haven't
I mean, you just need to wear clothes because that's how you're socially conditioned. Like, as a human, you need to cover your body. Like, no other
correct.
animal out there is covering their bodies unless we want to cover their bodies. Like, we put something on an elephant, or we put
But
something
but
on a dog.
strangely, see, Meghna, nature actually pushed us to do this. Strangely, nature did not give us any
How
protection
did
against
nature push
the.
us?
That is what I'm saying, like protection against any kind of climate.
Yeah, but
We developed in Africa. We are perfectly suited for Africa.
yeah,
But when we moved to new places, our skin did not go thicker,
no,
or
no.
our
So wait,
blubber.
so nature did not make us do this. We did this ourselves because we wanted to go to these cold
I
places,
don't know
right?
if we wanted to move. If an animal migrates, do they want to migrate, or is it there? Is it in their genes? Is it nature pushing them to
So
migrate?
migration is like a cyclical thing, but we didn't migrate, and come back. That's not what we did. That is what the migratory birds do, right? They go in
Again,
a
there
certain
can be a
season and they
debate
come back.
about whether it is intentional or not, but whatever it may be, we could have evolved a thicker skin or a thicker blubber fat or something like that. Again, we moved to a colder place almost like 500,000 years ago or something like that. So that is enough time for evolution, I would think. And like evidence proves that as well. But we did not, and that's why we had to cover up. Animal skins started with animal skins. Again, I think the covering up started with necessity, because a lot of tribes you see in the hotter regions, they don't cover up. They just wear a loincloth or something like that.
That's what I say. Like, I mean, no, in the Sentinelese, apparently they don't cover up at all. Like,
At all,
whatever
yeah.
photos of the
Because you don't
Sentinels.
need to. Because you don't need to.
Exactly.
And
But
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 colder
with
places, I think
but
fashion started like that. Colder places we had to cover up with animal skins and hides and things like that. And then that's need slowly became the tradition and the condition, the societal conditions. You have to cover up like
See,
that.
we were not, I don't think we were meant to go to places like that. Now, there are obviously animals that belong, like, let's say, in dogs, there are different kind of species. Like, there were certain wolves and there were certain species that they belonged in colder climates. And then there were certain that, then we created for other environments by cross matching. But they had fur. We never had fur, I think,
Yeah,
to begin with.
exactly.
We
That
just
is my
had hair.
point. That is my point. It's like
That is
our
that is my point.
natural.
Why did we go to cold places when we didn't
um
have fur?
Again, it's that is a that nobody knows the answer to that, why we moved to a colder place, but we did. And I would think that our spatial consciousness wasn't evolved enough at that point for us to make a decision consciously that, oh, we will move to a colder place, but it will also come with these challenges. So we just wanted to expand, because that is in our nature, to conquer
Yeah,
new
but
territories.
I think there's a difference between wanting to save yourself from the cold and fast fashion. Fast
Yeah, no, we
fashion.
have come a long way from there, but I'm saying that that is the start of fashion, like clothing. Like we could not, like, I think it's a very cold place thing where we first had the need to cover ourselves up, and that need became into a necessity or a societal norm, and then it has culminated in this horrible trend of 8 to 10% carbon emissions, and I believe they're buying left and right the carbon credits, to satisfy their ramp walks and shows and things like that. And 20% of the world's wastewater. My God,
But
20%.
it's
That is a
not.
huge number.
That is true, but I'm saying that the carbon emissions and buying the carbon credits will do nothing because it's a lot of consumer based thing. So
Hmm.
if they're mass producing, it's only because people are asking for it. If people were all minimalistic and people did not want a lot of clothes and they were okay with whatever clothes, and they bought clothes only after years of it, and if their clothes could not be like restitched or fixed or repaired, if that was how the industry was, which it was earlier, when we all had lesser money, that is how everyone used to be. They were very careful of what clothes they wore, and they would just restitch them and all of that. I mean, I still do that. But but now people don't want to, like, the moment there's like a small hole, there's something, they'll just throw it and then they'll buy a new t-shirt. Or
Hmm.
even when they
Remember the
don't
time
need
when you used
something.
to, like, there is a tradition in our cultures to gift clothes in like functions and things like that. Remember when
Yeah.
you used to gift like material rather than like the cloth, like the ready-made or the stitched up clothing itself?
True, true. No, that is actually absolutely true. That's how it is still now in certain parts of India. Like, I know that my mom, she gives, like, married women who come home. She gives like a blouse piece, not a ready-made blouse. So that
Not a
blouse you
ready-made
can, yeah.
blouse.
So that is culturally significant. But I also know, like, in my friends, I know a couple of friends who just doom scroll these apps which have clothes, and then they just buy clothes on whim. So it's like on a whim because they're bored or they just think that something looks cute, so they buy it. And it's like a trend across the world. So that is something I think that needs to be controlled as well. Our consumption on not just meat or our travel or different things, even what we wear. Like, if we can keep
Mm.
it for longer, that is something we need to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And not be intimidated by all the influencers, never repeating a piece of clothing, and things like that. Before Meghna's message, I think I want to ask this question. What is your wardrobe size? Honestly, go count it, and, comment down below. And then if you see excess clothing, then go to your local cloth or clothing donation center and pass on all your clothes to.
Oh, but
um,
they might actually pass on and then go buy more.
don't do that. What you don't need, pass it on, and do not buy new clothes. Remember that if you're a 90s kid, remember the time when if you're a live amongst your siblings, you only had hand me downs and nothing else. So, let's return back to that generation. I think this is something that we can definitely control, um, very easily. I believe, again, I am not fascinated by clothes, so I might be speaking out of turn. But that is my
Yeah.
question today.
Yeah, it is only because you don't like it. If there was something you liked, like, let's say, like, your meat consumption, you would not be able to give up on it. But just because you don't like clothes,
Hmm.
you feel like, oh yeah, you're like, you can just give up on it. That is how it
Right.
works. You're Yeah. Okay. Coming to my question, obviously, is that have you heard of Shirin-yoku? If you have not heard of Shirin-yoku or forest bathing, then you should go out in nature for an hour without your phone. Don't go with the whole intention that I will take photos, I will post this, and I
Or
will
listen to a
send these messages.
podcast.
Yeah. Just do nothing. Just be in nature with nature. Listen to the sounds. See the sights. See, how the sunlight passes through the leaves, how beautiful it looks. Listen to, the birds. Try to see and spot birds or other kind of wildlife, and then come back and tell us how you felt after that walk. And if you really liked it, then make it a habit. Go every day and step outside into nature and have that time for yourself.
Yeah. And while before going to the nature walk, give us a subscribe and click the bell icon so you can um, get all our latest notifications on your phone when you're not nature bathing. Follow us on all the different social media platforms. We go live everywhere all at once, so you'll be able to catch us once a week, everywhere, all at once. And yeah, comment and share this video with someone that you like or that shares your views, or someone that you don't like or does not share your views, just to give them a different perspective. If you're listening to a recorded version of this podcast, then definitely consider leaving us a rating. That again helps with spreading these messages, which are few and far between, to more and more people. But other than that, that is it for today, and we will see you next Sunday, same time, same channel. Have a good one, guys.
Bye bye.